I'm Joe Lample. When I created Growing a Greener World, I had one goal: to tell stories of everyday people, innovators, entrepreneurs, forward-thinking leaders who are all, in ways both big and small, dedicated to organic gardening and farming, lightening our footprint, conserving vital resources, protecting natural habitats, making a tangible difference for us all. They're real, they're passionate, they're all around us. They're the game changers who are literally growing a greener world and inspiring the rest of us to do the same. Growing a greener world, it's more than a movement, it's our mission. Any serious vineyard strives to make outstanding wines, of course, but one company is so committed to doing it in an environmentally responsible way, they're known as the Earthfriendly Vineyard. At Fetzer, sustainability is a way of life and at the cornerstone of how they do business. When approaching any aspect of operating the winery, Fetzer's employees use the 3 E's of sustainability as a guideline. Is it good for the environment? Does it have social equity? And is it economically viable? And it culminates in a belief that their eco-friendly practices are not only good for the planet and neighbors, but they produce healthier vines and richer, more flavorful wines. At the helm of overseeing this mission is Dr. Ann Thrupp, Fetzer's Manager of Sustainability. Along with many of the employees, Ann works to incorporate sustainable practices into their vineyard and winery operations, as well as those of their outside grower partners. Over the years, she's helped the winery pioneer many earth-friendly innovations that have dramatically reduced their impact on the environment, while in the process made the company a model of eco-responsibility for the entire wine industry. And one of the things I find so appealing about Fetzer is that, you guys have been green before green was the thing, right?
Yeah, that's the case, definitely. Fetzer Vineyards is truly a pioneer in using sustainable practices, and it goes back more than 2 decades. In the 1980s, the founders of the vineyards decided to form an organic garden. And the idea was to plant fruits and vegetables that they could pair with the wines. And the results were just phenomenal. They had incredibly flavorful fruits and vegetables that the winemakers liked so much, they thought they should try doing that in the vineyards as well.
Makes sense?
Yeah, and also the results of the soil was excellent because they really regenerated the soil, they improved the health of the soil, as well as having these great flavors. So at that point, Fetzer decided they wanted to convert all of the vineyards to using sustainable and organic practices.
So how much land are we talking about here then?
Well, we now have 960 acres. So we're really a pretty large producer, and we also work with lots of other growers to encourage them to use sustainable practices.
But if you really wanted to be efficient here, then you could plant out all 900 and something acres, but you don't do that, do you?
Well, we're really conscious of being stewards of the land and the resources. So a lot of the area around the vineyards are in the natural habitat. We do a lot to conserve the biodiversity and the habitat, and that's great for the ecosystem, it's great for the health of the vineyards and for the planet. So we have lots of oak woodlands and riparian trees, and we also do many other things to conserve the water and the energy and our resources in general.
But considering the sole core of your business is agriculture and growing grapes, your real focus, at least initially, is on what's coming up from the roots and into the grapes.
Yes, definitely. And we really feel that this form of farming sustainably helps to contribute to great quality wines.
Yeah.
So we're really getting the benefits in the quality of our product as well as taking care of the natural resources.
Springtime in Northern California, what could be better than that? The new growth is coming out on the vines, and in just a few months, these will be full of grapes. They have to look good all the time, especially in a professional operation. Not sure that's a job I would want, but here at Fetzer, somebody's got to do it, and that person is David Coball. He's the director of the vineyards. So David, pretty bold move here, changing the way you grow everything 20 years ago. How did that go for you?
Absolutely. It was difficult at first because we were the first ones to do it and the industry was very small at that point. So the biggest thing for us was changing the way we thought about what we were doing.
Okay.
Going from this command and control mentality to how do I grow the vine to avoid all these things before I get them? Proactive versus reactive.
I love that analogy. Rather than reaching for the toolbox to fix whatever's broken,
Exactly.
you're paying a lot more attention to the upfront process.
Right. So it all starts in the soil.
Okay, let's talk about that. Well, like the
Sure.
main things that you are paying attention to, and soil is the first.
Yep. So at Fetzer Vineyards, we compost all of the grape pumice, the
Yeah.
skins, seeds, stems, all that stuff that comes out of the winemaking process. We compost it and we bring it out here in the vineyard. And compost itself, it's a fertility amendment that we have, but it's also full of microorganisms.
You're not kidding. You know, 1 teaspoon of healthy garden soil has over 4 billion microorganisms in it. So a lot of those are doing the work to replace that fertility and improve the porousness of the soil as well.
Exactly. So we think about it, I mean, you're thinking about your soil, it's the digestive system right there. So if
Exactly.
you've got a lot of microorganisms in there, it's a healthy soil. It's more efficient digesting the nutrients.
Now, something else I want to point out here, you have all these weeds here, really, that's what a lot of people would look at these to be. It's crimson clover, but in your case,
Yes.
that's not an accident. These are here on purpose and they're doing a really important job. Talk about that.
Exactly. The cover crops that we plant, we consider that as one of our throttles on the control of how the vines grow. So these, the crimson clover is a leguminous crop that brings in nitrogen to the soil.
Yeah.
It increases the fertility of the soil.
And so as you return that back to the soil as it dies off or as you actually kill it, nitrogen and carbon are going back into the soil to improve it.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the soil though. I mean, we're talking about these vines that have to be in the right balance.
Exactly. So a balanced soil, and then leads you to a balanced vine. So just like you and I, if we're too fat or too skinny, we're out of balance, and that's an unhealthy state. So we want to have the vines being in balance to the capacity of the soil as well.
Okay.
And so what we do, I mean, aside from using these cover crops in cultivation, is we'll come in and we'll remove some of the excess shoots so that we're sure that we've got the right amount of crop load for what the soil can sustain.
And also that allows the proper amount of light and circulation, air circulation in here.
Exactly, exactly. What we're trying to do is, again, avoid disease. So by bringing light, we're discouraging disease conditions.
Yeah,
We're starting
absolutely.
with the problem rather than the symptom.
Perfect. And then irrigation, that's always on people's minds. How do you guys do
Yes.
that in this system?
Yeah, so irrigation, again, this is one of our throttles on how we control the growth of the vine. So if the vines are weak, we can put more irrigation on to bring up the vigor of the vines.
Yep.
If the vines are too strong, again, we drop the amount of irrigation we put in. And water is a very precious resource in California.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you do that through a drip system. It's not any big overhead system. Again, you want the water to drip down into the soil without getting up on the foliage because that can always be a problem for diseases as well, another vector to potential problem.
Exactly. Again, keeping this area dry so we discourage disease. And drip irrigation is the most efficient means of delivering the water to the vines.
So is that about sum it up then?
Yeah, I mean, really, if you think about everything we're doing, it's common sense. Everything in moderation, it's all in balance.
Well, that doesn't sound so complicated.
No, it's not. There are days, but you know, again, everything in moderation, everything in balance.
But I love the proactive, reactive thing. I'm going to take that home. I'm going to remember that. Hey, by the way, what kind of vine is this?
This is Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, that's my favorite. When is it going to be ready?
Good. It'll be ready in October.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right, it's a good time of the year.
Excellent. Well, cover crops can be any number of plants, but they serve several vital functions. First of all, they can attract beneficial insects as they go into flower. They can aid in pollination. They can also repel other pests and diseases, and that's really important. And they can also help reduce soil runoff from water and air. Now, the most popular type of cover crop in use today are from the legume family. Now, the legume family has the unique ability to take atmospheric nitrogen and store it in the plant in small nodes. And that nitrogen then becomes available later for other plants to use. And that can include hairy vetch and field peas and clover, like crimson clover right here. And there's so much more to know about cover crops that we can't cover today, but it's waiting for you on the website at growingagreenerworld.com. So it's not just for vineyards and farms, but they're good for home gardens too. So be sure to check out the articles.
You don't have to be a farmer with acres of land to need cover crops. Paige Witherington, farm manager at Serenbe Farms, just south of Atlanta, is going to clue us in on the benefits of planting cover crops for the home garden. So Paige, you are a huge fan of cover crops.
Yes, they are excellent. Big fan.
A lot of home gardeners kind of ignore cover crops, but they really shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. We are in a very large field here, but this could be replicable on a very small scale, maybe a 10 by 10 or a 6 by 6 little box. Cover crops are great. They'll give you nutrition, They'll keep your soil in place, and they're really pretty, and they attract your beneficial insects.
So right here, you've got a variety of cover crops now, some summer cover crops, right?
Exactly. We just seeded them, so they're just now coming up, but we have buckwheat and sunflowers, which are two of my favorite summer cover crops. And a lot of people overlook sunflowers as a cover crop. They grow very, very tall, so they give you lots of organic matter, add a lot of nitrogen and nutrients to your soil. They also have a very deep taproot, so they're going to bring all that up, all the nutrients that you might otherwise leach up from the soil when you cut them down and turn them back into the soil.
So for home gardeners, there are two different times of the year that they can plant some cover crops. That's in the summer if they've got an area that's fallow, and it's just a great idea to do that to keep down those weeds and also just keep that soil, enriching that soil. But there's also winter cover crops.
Right.
What are some of the types of cover crops that they can plant in the winter?
We grow a huge diversity of them. Crimson clover is a great one. It fixes nitrogen, and it has beautiful pink flowers in the springtime. Hairy vetch, I think we've seen some of that around the farm, but it's got really lovely purple flowers, and that's a huge nitrogen fixer as well. It's basically free fertilizer.
And when you're ready to plant that area, you just turn all of that into the soil.
Exactly.
And that's just going to add organic matter. Any of the nutrients that it took from the soil, it's just going to go right back in, and then it's ready to be planted for the year.
Precisely.
Here, what are you going to plant next?
We'll keep these summer cover crops in the ground until late August, and then we'll plant our fall brassicas, so our broccoli and our cabbage and our kale and our collards.
Oh, that is so awesome. You have the greatest job ever. I love it.
I love it too.
Now, on top of all of the things that Fetzer is doing outside to be more sustainable from their growing region and surrounding grounds, they look for every opportunity to be a little bit greener inside too, from their bottles to their boxes to their buildings and so much more.
So this is a great illustration of Fetzer's commitment to renewable energy. This is one of the largest installations of solar panels in the wine industry, and it consists of 4,300 panels. It's 75,000 square feet,
Wow.
and it generates enough energy to reduce the carbon emissions for the greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
That's equivalent to taking 160 cars off the road for a year.
Fantastic.
So it's a huge contribution, and it generates the capacity of approximately 80% of our bottling facility.
Fantastic.
So of all of the buildings here at Fetzer, this particular building is the most earth-friendly, and it's our administration building. And it was made specifically with green practices in mind. So one of the main features is that it's made out of recycled and natural materials.
Yeah.
Now the walls are made out of a rammed earth, a form of rammed earth that's basically made out of the local dirt. And then on top of that, there's recycled wood and recycled paint and other recycled materials that are used in the building.
All throughout.
Right, and then the fact that the walls are so thick also makes it great for conserving energy. It's like a form of insulation. And then it also has a passive cooling system. What that means is that we have really hot summers, but we can cool it naturally by using the cool air at night. So the windows open and allow the cool air to come in, and then the windows close in the morning. And so that way we don't have to cool the building with air conditioning.
Sure.
It's all done naturally.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can see it has solar panels on top.
Literally on top of that.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and we're generating, the majority of the energy in that building is generated through solar power. So there's many different features.
Yeah, it sounds like you've worked really hard to make that a very green building, and you've done a great job at it.
Yeah, we really have. And it's something that we really enjoyed being in the building. It's a very nice feel to be there.
I can see why. All right, so with all that time in the vineyard, frankly, I'm a little bit thirsty. Plus, what tour would be complete without seeing where it's stored and where it's made? And for me, the bonus, hooking up with my good friend Nathan.
That's right.
So Nathan, what's been going on here?
So this is the place where all the magic happens. This is where they store all the wine after it's gone through all of its majesticness. And we're about to taste this amazing, it's a Fetzer 2008 Merlot. And I met up with the wine master. His name is Dennis.
Yeah.
And Dennis is a genius because all the wine masters take just the raw grapes And it takes somebody as smart as Dennis to make an amazing wine from raw grapes like they do here at Fetzer.
Because you can start out with great grapes, but if you don't have the right guy behind it, you can end up with a disaster.
Absolutely, and he's gone off, grabbed a couple glasses of wine so we can try some of this great Fetzer Merlot.
Excellent.
Timing is everything.
Absolutely, as it is in life.
And I see you brought 3 glasses. Thank you
brought
so
3.
much, sir. So I assume that this is ready to taste.
Ready to taste. This is a finished blend ready for bottling. So it's it's had all this stuff done on it before. It's been in barrel. It's seen some oak. It's probably got some other blender in there with it, but it's mostly Merlot. And it's just sitting here nice and peacefully ready for bottling.
Okay, or drinking, or tasting.
Or drinking.
Okay,
We could do,
so
yeah, why don't we?
let's tap into that.
Look at that.
And I'm just gonna pour this in your glass as
Okay.
well.
I can hear the cherubs singing.
So now spinning it is doing
Yeah.
what?
That just sort of opens up all the aroma to allow the bowl of the glass to capture that, so you get a good, we call it a good nose. So you get a good nose on the wine.
Talking about a good
So-
nose, I got a good nose.
So we're in good shape then. We're in business.
Okay.
So
I'm
you smell
smelling
the
different
oak.
fruits
You
and-
smell the oak. You get some oak. Get some vanilla from the oak. Get a little
Absolutely.
spice from the oak.
Yeah. So this has been living in oak before it came to the tanks,
Yes, it has
Okay.
been right.
and
Yep.
those oak barrels are around here somewhere.
And they are. If you like, I can hook you up and we go look at them.
I do want to see it because
Okay.
those rooms always look so cool in the pictures. I want to see it in real life.
They
Let's
are
do it.
cool.
Dennis.
They are
Okay.
cool.
Cheers. Let's check it out.
Cheers. Thank you.
You know, Dennis, this place is huge, absolutely immense.
How many barrels are in here?
There are 35,000 barrels in here, I think, Joe.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this all red wine?
There's all red wine in this cellar, yeah. And it's important for barrels for maturation on red wines. They need to soften the tannins. We make a lot of different varieties of red wine, so this isn't all Merlot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other varieties in here, like Cabernet and Zinfandel and things like that. So,
Grapes like the Zinfandel, Merlot, Cabernet, those are named after grapes.
correct.
Okay.
Those are all grape varieties, and they would be stated so on the label.
Okay, gotcha. And what about the white wines, white grape varieties would not see oak?
We do Chardonnay sees some Chardonnay see a little bit oak, but Sauvignon Blanc, for example, our Sauvignon Blanc sees no oak.
And it's like
So-
crisp and bright and vibrant.
Exactly.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
I am all out, gentlemen. You guys have a little bit left. Is there a way I can grab a couple bottles for my
I
cooking?
got you all set up over here.
Dennis,
You're
I
good to go.
love you, my friend. Gentlemen, I'll see you in the kitchen.
Dennis, thanks a lot. I need to go catch up
Okay,
with my
good
buddy.
luck, Joe.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care. All right.
We got it, guys. We got everything we need. 2 bottles of wine, 1 for sampling, and 1 for cooking. So how about this? Jump on the back of my beautiful green bicycle and join me in the kitchen. Let's cook. Risotto. I'm just gonna go out and say it. Risotto, one of my favorite Italian dishes. And that's what we're using this great white wine with. It's so simple, really easy, and the final product, delicious. First thing we gotta get those onions going. So, pot, about medium heat. Gonna throw in a touch of butter. There we are. And I'm gonna dice up this yellow onion pretty small, and that goes in with the butter. Okay, the onion's nicely diced. Whew, that's a strong onion. Look at that. I'm starting to cry, it's so good. That's how good risotto is. The onions go in there first. We're gonna stir these around until they're evenly coated. Now, medium heat will let it cook down pretty slowly. Don't want a lot of color on that. Once it cooks down, after about a minute, 2 minutes, we're gonna add this rice. This is arborio rice. It's a short grain rice. Any short grain rice will do. The reason for that, it's a high starch rice, and as you cook it, everything else around it gets nice and creamy, and that's what we want for this risotto, a creamy, delicious risotto. We add that now. Okay, now I'm stirring it to coat every single grain with a little bit of fat from that butter, and that kind of toasts it and helps it from not overcooking too quickly when I add some of the stock. Now, that's where this little gem comes into play. A little bit of white wine, and that crisps the whole thing up. And we'll pour that in now. And after we pour it in, give it a little stir. We'll reduce it until almost no wine remains, and then in goes the stock. Oh, yeah. That is the scent. So for maybe 3 or 4 people, that's probably 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, okay? I'll let this cook down. It already smells amazing. All right, now there's pretty much no liquid left in this, and now is the time to add the stock. This chicken stock, probably a half to 3/4 cup at a time, not all at once. And once that's absorbed, we'll add more. There we go. Now that looks great. So while that's cooking down, let's have some sauteed mushrooms with this dish. So easy, really, really easy. Get the pan going on, a little bit of butter, slice the mushrooms, and in they go. All right, mushrooms are sliced, the pan is nice and hot, and actually the butter is starting to brown. That is perfect. In the mushrooms go. There we are. Now I didn't add all the mushrooms at one time because if you add too many, they actually steam and get kind of soft. We don't want that, we want caramelization. Give it a quick flip. Salt and pepper, kosher and freshly ground, and it looks like it's just about time for more stock in this risotto. And we'll add a little bit more. Perfect. You can really smell that wine. That homemade stock is awesome. Now to these mushrooms, how about some thyme? Make it pop. A little bit of extra flavor in there. Some of this fresh thyme. I love this herb. It's so good. It's really lemony, it's fresh, just makes everything taste amazing. Okay, we have great caramelization going on in these mushrooms. There's a lot of color on the bottom of the pan. That's called fond. I want that to come up into the food. Trusty dusty, white wine. Use it again. Such a great sound. I just love that sound. And what happens is now, all the fond comes up, and as it reduces, you have all that flavor of the mushrooms, plus the wine, plus the thyme. It's a perfect topping for this risotto. And now's the time to add this last installment of the chicken stock. Now this looks great. It's really creamy from that rice. And serve it up, guys. I can smell that wine. So great. Really creamy. And don't forget about those thyme sauteed mushrooms we did. And deglaze the pan with that wine also. Look at that. Just so beautiful. There we are. A little bit of Parmesan, freshly grated, right over top. And when you get down to these little nubs like this, save these because you were making homemade tomato sauce, another favorite Italian dish. Throw these in the tomato sauce. They make it nice and buttery. A little bit of parsley and extra virgin olive oil. Perfect. And there we are. A delicious dish, enhanced from that amazing white wine. Enjoy.
Fetzer's quest to initiate sustainable practices in their fields and company over 25 years ago is stronger than ever and now extends well beyond their own corporate domain. And it should be encouraging to us all to know that a company that relies on the healthiest fruit possible for its livelihood can grow it to harvest using all natural methods. With so much on the line when it comes to growing and producing such a high-quality product, we can all toast to a company doing so in such a socially and environmentally responsible way. If you have any questions about today's show, check us out on the web at growingagreenerworld.com. I'm Joe Lample. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next time for more Growing a Greener World.
You know, Dennis, this place is immense. It's no joke.
No kidding. How many wine bottles?
Isn't it? Oh.
Okay. All right, come back here, Dennis. Real off camera.
I'm sorry.
Vineyards has frankly made me a little bit thirsty, and I've been missing my buddy Nathan. Well, that's, you know, go figure. Where am I going to find him? In the tank room. Nathan?